Welcome to Do You Ever Wonder? The show that brings you answers to many of the questions that you may have, but with no one to ask. Do You Ever Wonder is hosted by Mike Haltman, CEO of Hallmark Abstract Service, who, like you, has always been deeply curious about a wide variety of topics. Each week, Mike will be speaking with guests who are leaders in their field and who have inspirational stories to tell. So now, sit back and enjoy the show.
Hi everyone. Indeed, today we do have an inspirational story today to tell. I have a guest who many of you probably know of, have probably heard often. She's incredibly accomplished, and I usually don't read off a list, but she's done so many things that I have to avert my eyes to look at it. She was the on-air voice at 106.7 Light FM for many years, which is actually how I recognize the name. Now I will ask her to do her 106.7 Light FM promo intro if she'll do it. But she also worked with Boomer Esiason. She was an MC, actually a featured reporter at the Tony Awards, a voiceover actress, an on-air actress for TV shows that you've been familiar with, like Blue Bloods, the Voice of God MC at the Clinton Global Initiative, which sounds fascinating. Hosts and produces a series at the 92nd Street Y. I don't know if you're still doing that, but I love the 92nd Street Y. And a lot more, and now she's a director and a producer of shows that we will discuss more. Valerie Smaldone, welcome, Valerie. It's an unbelievable pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Michael. As you go down that list, I realize I'm exhausted.
You know what? That's what happens when you're accomplished. It's a tiring thing. I, on the other hand, am I am unbelievably up and attentive.
Okay, great.
I am not as successful or accomplished as you. But the voice of God, what was that?
Well, I'm still doing it. That is a great pleasure of mine. Voice of God is it's actually a term in a live production, and it is the disembodied voice that you hear when you go to any kind of an event, whether it's an award ceremony, a charitable event, or in my case, I started to do a lot of political or think tank organizations like the Clinton Global Initiative. And now I work with Concordia, I work with Global Citizen, I work with the Milken Institute, and they bring together world leaders, presidents of countries and people from NGOs and from businesses, CEOs and CFOs of businesses to help make the world a better place. That's the very basic idea. How can these people, these leaders, improve our world? And so I'm the announcer, which is known as the Voice of God. It's a live position, and it's very interesting to be in the same room as these people repeatedly. So I've had a great opportunity.
That's amazing. So I don't know when your interest and your when you started getting involved in situations and organizations that give back, that do good, that seek to change the world in a positive way. Have you always been like that?
I've always been charitably minded, and certainly during my many years in radio, we were always doing some sort of charitable event, whether it was the March of Dimes or making strides against breast cancer. I was always there hosting, walking, raising money. MS Society did a bike tour, raised $5,000, with my team. I've always felt that we should be giving back. But I didn't start creating content personally until the last few years. And I think when you go through a career like I have, which has been media, entertainment, on-air talent, in front of people talent, you start to think, well, what else can I contribute? And that is making people feel better. I mean, I believe we live in a chaotic world for so many reasons. And when you wake up in the morning and you look at your phone and you see the news, you say, oh my goodness, I want to go back to bed.
Yeah.
But that's not productive. So perhaps by creating programming, content, entertainment that makes people feel just a little bit better, it makes a difference. And so that's what I'm attempting to do.
You know what? I always tell my kids to give back, to look down, not up. You know, everyone always looks up to what they want instead of looking down to what they have and how much people do need things. And I think, you know, at the end, when we meet our maker or when people remember us for who we were, you know, it's not the media, although I'm sure some people do, but it's really for what we've contributed to the world. You know, what have we made the world a better place? And
Absolutely.
you know, I remember a couple of years ago, I took my three kids and my wife to a food kitchen in the city, and we worked, we made food, we served food. You know, we met people who have much tougher lives than we do, and I think it's critical to appreciate. So I think that's terrific that you do that.
Thank you. I also encourage people to do that on their own. And even if it's not a concerted effort, it's just being nice, just thinking about other people who might need even a friendly word. It's as simple as that sometimes.
No question. So, you know, I think we've had a prior conversation, and you know that I'm involved with veterans. And, you know, when people say thank you for your service, in many ways, it really does give them a good feeling because, you know, they're doing a lot. They're giving up a lot. They're sacrificing a lot, sometimes more than we can imagine. And the simple phrase of thank you for your service goes a long way. You know, for somebody who's doing something bigger than we are or for the better good, for the greater good, to appreciate that, I think, is terrific. So,
Agree 100%.
yeah, so now I see that your more recent endeavors are related to faith, to giving back, to goodwill. Tell me a little bit about the Thursday Night Club.
Through a very circuitous path, I found my way to this production company, and I started working on this film, The Thursday Night Club, which was based on the novella by Stephen Manchester. It's a sweet story about 5 college students who are wrapped up in their own lives. They're getting ready to graduate, go on with their careers. And the father of one of these people comes to visit for a meal towards the end of their last year. And he's very into projects for the family. Every year, he and his family create projects to give back to the community, and they vote on it, and the family gets involved, which was a sweet idea for the other kids, but it didn't affect them anyway. He is one of these guys that when he walks into the room, you see sort of this divinity about him, and he's a great guy. And he's at dinner and he starts asking them, well, what are you doing for other people? How are you looking outside of yourself? And they're all wrapped up. And he said, one day you will see a sign that will show you how you can give back. That is how the movie begins. And then we see it unfold. And so I was involved as an executive producer, and then I became a director because our director dropped out, and it was days before we started shooting. Days. So I was sort of thrown into the mix and terrified, but I loved it.
Had you ever directed before?
I directed talent for voice talent, and I've been an actress. And oftentimes when you're on the other side of the camera, you're certainly learning, but I had not directed a film or a narrative film. Let's put it that way. I had done some documentary stuff, but not a narrative film. So it was terrifying, but also extremely invigorating. And by the end of the shoot, I loved it. And I wanted to continue directing, which I hope to do. I have something in the works right now. So anyway, the movie was based on this novella and also an audio drama podcast. It did very well. And the story is now out. The movie's out. We had cast pop diva Gloria Gaynor in her first acting role in a film, which was a distinction for her and for us. And we partnered with Be the Match, which is the National Registry for a bone marrow donation, excuse me, because there is a storyline related to that in the movie. So we, in that case, started to really promote the idea of taking a swab, which is how they get you in the registry, to see if you can be a donor. And I cast a real life donor who was not an actor, and you can tell he is not an actor in the film, so much so that I made him make a little video at the end explaining why he was in the film, because I found him online, Michael. He was a college student at Central Connecticut University some years ago, and his coach made all the guys on the team swab, and he was a match for a little girl. And he had to leave the team for, I guess, a year or some amount of time to go through the process. He donated his bone marrow to the little girl, saved her life. It was a national story. It was picked up by NBC News and People Magazine. And I found him. I found him in Connecticut, and I cast him in a role of somebody who's advocating for this. So I love the idea of tying in entertainment with real life needs. So that was my first real taste in finding excitement and how can we help people through content.
That's phenomenal. My oldest daughter was actually a donor as well to a woman in Canada who's still alive, and it's having that kind of life-giving power is really an unbelievable thing. So that's great. You know what? It is an amazing thing. It is very easy to just swab. The chances that you're going to be picked are not that great, but if you are, to have that power is unbelievable. So that's fantastic. So now, as a director, you have to tell people what to do, how to do it, the tones of their voice, the expressions on their face, the exuberance that they show. I mean, you have to pretty much tell them what you think is the way that if things would work out the best.
Yes, but I also would say that I allowed and I appreciated the actor's interpretation of the work. And so sometimes it's just a matter of a tweak, but you're also very cognizant, working with your director of photography who's doing the camera work. What is the texture that you want in the scene? What are you trying to portray? You have a team of people around you, the technical people, and you have your assistant director who's extremely important to keep us going and make sure everybody is on where they're supposed to be. So the director works in all the different departments with the audio, with the lighting, to get the texture that you need. And this was, for me, a huge amount of work because I had never really been in that position before. Luckily, we had a very talented team. I had people hold my hand through the process, and I enjoyed it, as I said, greatly. Also, as the executive producer, you're also thinking about time and money and making sure we get the shot. And so there's a lot going on, but at the end of the day, when you have the product and it's distributed now, it's out, available everywhere, it's extremely gratifying. And
I can only
we're proud of
imagine.
it. Yeah.
That's fantastic. So if you're on a movie where the producer and the director are not the same person, then you can have issues. If the director is looking for some kind of perfection that's going to cost a lot of money, the producer might have issues with that. Is that
Absolutely. And it also comes with your team, because everybody there is an expert in what they do. So the person who does the lighting says, I need more time to set the light. Looking at your watch, we don't have the time. We have to make decisions. Or can I use this camera? Well, it takes a half hour to build that camera. Do we have the time for that? So all of this goes into the making of a film, and you would not know that when you're working. I've worked in episodic TV where the budgets are ridiculous, NBC, ABC, CBS, ridiculous budgets,
ridiculously high budgets?
crazy. And
Right.
I'd always say, why let's say I have a day player role. I have a few lines, but it's considered in the contract with the union a starring role. Well, when you have a starring role, you have a trailer, you have a stand-in, you have your own PA. And I'd say, but I don't need that. Like, seriously, I don't need that. I'll just show up.
Anyone who's considered whatever it is that constitutes a star, you get all that.
You get all that. It's contractual. union, contractual, and it's lovely. But the other side of me as a producer is like, why are we spending this money? Don't spend money. We could do it. We could do it without all that, right? So it's a very interesting experience to be an independent filmmaker and then step onto the set of one of these, Law and Order, the franchise of Law and Order, which is so successful, right? And has been doing so well. It's interesting, very interesting for me.
It's probably better to start in the role that you're doing, so that when you do get to a certain level, you know how to do things within a budget.
Mhm.
You start with no budget, then it's probably harder to go in the other direction.
I guess.
Imagine.
But now, with the strike that we have going on now and with all of the challenges that the industry has, we'll see some changes made. We're going to see some changes made, I think.
Is the strike affecting you?
Well, the only way it's affecting me is I don't have obviously any auditions for episodic TV. The last thing I did was last December, I did a blacklist, which was still during the pandemic COVID rules. So that created all kinds of jobs that had to be taken care of. That has been relaxed, obviously. But no, I haven't done any episodic TV, which is okay. No, it really not. It doesn't affect me in what I do now. No.
Would you want to do episodic TV again
Sure.
if it came around?
Yes, it's always fun. It's nice to get the residuals.
Right. So I think there are some actors who in years back didn't contract for those residuals, I think, who
Correct.
got screwed.
That's right. That's right. It evolved, and some people stood up to the industry and made noise, and it changed for everybody. But this is going to evolve again now with AI in the issue, and with the streamers, and the way that the whole industry has turned upside down, and what people watch and what they don't watch, and how it's so diluted. So many different channels now.
Yep.
It's evolution. This is normal. It's not. It's just the way it is. It's normal.
Well, so to digress, AI. Do you see AI as a existential threat to actors and actresses?
On some level, yes, but like anything else with technology, and I always say technology drives civilization. It is the thing that moves us forward, not necessarily in a positive way, but it moves us forward. AI is a great tool. It can help eliminate a lot of time and a lot of money in this application. But on the other hand, it is generated not by humanity. It's not generated by the personal touch. So I believe there's always going to have to be some intervention or integration with AI to have good content.
Right.
But
But when you say it will it will mitigate time, it will mitigate money, but that means it's going to alleviate jobs.
correct.
That
Correct.
is that what the entire strike is about?
Some of it, but a lot of it is also, first of all, is replication of an actor. That if you can replicate their being,
Yeah.
their presence, and put them in different scenes and in different movies or different television shows, once you pay for them, who owns you? With your IP, what does that mean?
Right.
Your likeness, how does that? We already have that problem with the internet, with deep fakes, right? This has been going on for a
Yeah.
while, right? So again, it's a tool that can be very positive, but like anything else, the social media, internet has been extremely negative on many levels. We're human beings that need help. We need to be somehow policed, or there have to be boundaries, and that's part of what the strike is about at this point.
So do you see that? So it seems like the issues are, it's not just we want 50 cents more an hour. These issues are large issues that have
Yes.
no easy answers. So this strike could go on for some time.
It could, and it's a terrible thing. Look, strikes are not good for any, at the end of the day, they're not good, because it's not only the actors and the writers and the directors, it is all the industries that line up behind them.
Food
Make
truck.
hair, catering, flowers, Teamsters that drive people, the cleaners, all those people are affected. So that is, and we just came through the pandemic and it was so hard for so many people. So none of this is good or easy, but sometimes you have to make really hard decisions and buckle down. So I don't know. I've been through some of this before in radio, and it's never anything you really want to do. But I think that the constituents believed that this was important enough to go to that level.
Hopefully it works out soon to everybody's benefit.
Yes, I hope so.
Yeah. Have you ever walked a picket line?
No, no.
That's good. That's good. So your new project or your current project, Divine Intervention.
Nope. Let me
Oh, I'm sorry, Divine Renovation.
Okay. You are not alone, Michael. So many people say divine intervention. We have bloopers upon bloopers.
I'm sure.
People saying that, but that's okay. As long as you
I corrected myself.
That's okay. It's divine renovation. That's
Yes.
correct.
And you have a star from my childhood, Erik Estrada. So tell me a little bit, how did this evolve?
While we were on the set of Thursday Night Club in New Milford, Connecticut in March of 22, the other producers and I were starting to sort of riff about what would we like to do next. And we wanted to stay in the lane of doing good, light faith, and kindness. Because when we started shooting, Michael, the Ukraine war had just broken out.
Okay.
And, in the morning, we'd be up very early and putting on the television was devastating. And here we're doing this sweet movie and saying, well, there's a need for this. People need to feel good about the world. Otherwise, what are we doing here? So we started to come up with what could we do next? And a narrative film is a complicated process to prepare for. Reality TV is complicated, but a little bit less so. So we started thinking about staying in the light faith area. And my partner, Monty, Hobbs, had an idea for a couple of reality shows. And we sort of played around with the idea and came up with this Divine Renovation. It's morphed a little bit since the original plan, but Monty knew Erik Estrada from working with him years past, like I knew Gloria Gaynor from working with her. And he called Erik and said, would you do it? And he said, once you're all ready to go, call me. It was as simple as that. So he came on board, and although he is an icon from the 70s and 80s, he's still very relevant today. He still is out and about. He does meet and greets all over the country, and he's mobbed anywhere he goes. I've met numerous celebrities. I've never seen this before. This has been interesting.
That's great.
Adore him.
So tell me a little bit about what you do on an episode. How do you find people in need, and then how does it go from there?
So Divine Renovation, the first season, which was really our proof of concept pilot season and then got picked up very quickly, was shot in Wilmington, North Carolina, where Monty is from. He came up here for our film. He made us go down there for this one, which was delightful. I really liked Wilmington. It's a lovely, lovely place. And so we, through not-for-profits, identified 5 individuals or families in need. And it wasn't necessarily a financial need, but in need of, as we call them, Michael, home enhancements, because we don't have the time or the budget to do major renovation projects. And I really love this idea because when my parents were alive, and if I did anything for my father, because he couldn't see, he was having some, sort of legally blind, whatever needed to be done around the house, I'd come in, put in a light bulb or whatever it was. And it was like, it changed his whole demeanor. And I was his wizard. He called me a wizard because I put light in the house. Okay. Mm-hmm. Right. So those little things can make such a difference in someone's life. So we would go in and find an individual or family in need, whatever that would be, that we could do, and help them out with these enhancements. Now, here's the thing. We would bring in businesses, not-for-profits, houses of worship and volunteers to help us because we couldn't do it alone. And that's the beauty and the magic of this, that people come together to help others. Simple idea, but it really works.
Absolutely.
And then, almost more important than fixing whatever needed to be fixed, is we do what I call a spiritual uplift. And that is, for example, one of our lovely cast members in season 1, John Sousa, was a paratrooper, and he had done so many jumps that his ankles were sort of shattered. He had an accident after he left the service that rendered him disabled. He could not improve his house. So we did whatever he needed, found out that he used to be a band leader, used to play trumpet, used to have salsa nights in Wilmington, North Carolina. So we got the Wilmington Symphony to bring us a trumpet player and walk onto the property and play for him so that he would be just illuminated. He was illuminated when he saw the trumpet and the guy.
Oh, to cry. I would
You have
imagine.
to watch it. Did you watch it yet? Did you see season 1 yet?
I have not watched the whole thing. I did not see that episode, but I will.
Go for it.
Oh, absolutely.
I should also say it is available right now on Tubi, on Freevee, season 1, and then Amazon, Google Play, iTunes, and numerous other platforms, but Tubi and Freevee.
So all anyone would have to do is type in Divine Renovation.
Divine Renovation Tubi, for example, which is a free service. It's like watching, network TV, only it's a streamer. Yeah.
That's right. So of all of the things that you've done for people, what do you think had the most impact?
In season 1?
Yeah.
Well, one of my favorite episodes in season 1 was Dave Ennis, who was this charming, I guess he's about 70 years old now, but when he was a young man, he was in a very devastating car accident, and it changed the course of his life. He, prior to that, was a firefighter in North Carolina. He had left the fire department and was now a business person. He had just gotten married, and he had this devastating car accident, and it caused brain injury, trauma. And his life changed forever. His family, his brother and sister, take care of him now. The parents are gone. And Dave is got a great sense of humor, but he's compromised. So to be able to help Dave by getting him a wheelchair ramp, by giving him a chair that lifts up so he can get out of it easily, by fixing his toilet, his spiritual uplift was bringing the local fire department to come around with the fire truck and get him in the fire truck and drive off with the sirens going.
Fantastic. You know what? That's fantastic. Doing good, continuing to do good, spirituality and just making people feel better is a phenomenal thing to do. And I know that you're looking for new venues. We had spoken, and potentially you might be coming to Long Island. I hope you do. And you might, in some way, the charity that I work with, Heroes to Heroes Foundation, might play some role. But you know what? Just keep doing what you're doing. You're doing God's work, which is incredible.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. At this point in my career, it's very, very satisfying for me. And I do want to mention my other partner, Matthieu, Chazareix, Monty, Hobbs, and I, working together has been very satisfying. Not easy. Nothing's easy, but we're proud of the work we've done, and it's delightful to meet you through LinkedIn. And thank you so much for inviting me on this program.
100%. And I look forward to hopefully speaking with you in the future.
Thank you, Michael.
All right. Well, you take care, and we'll speak again soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to Do You Ever Wonder? And we hope that you enjoyed the show. Next week, we will have another terrific guest telling their story. And if there are any specific topics you'd like to hear more about, please don't hesitate to let us know. Our curiosity, like yours, knows no bounds. Please subscribe and like and share this episode on your social media. See you next week.